The Helix is coming. You heard that right. The Helix is coming. If you're looking for a place where innovators, entrepreneurs, and other smart people gather, you don't have to go to Research Triangle Park. You don't have to go to Silicon Valley. It is all right here in New Jersey. Minutes from Rutgers University and a short drive or train ride to New York City, Philly, Boston, and DC. So what is the Helix? Well, the Helix is a new innovation district in New Brunswick, New Jersey that offers a range of physical environments, a vibrant innovation community, and a strategic central location. The Helix will uniquely mix workspaces, classrooms, laboratories, venues, and a collaborative environment to create a dynamic community and setting for innovative minds. Universities, startups, Fortune 500 companies, entrepreneurs, researchers, and many others are already signing up to call the Helix home. Thus far, the Helix has assembled a community of innovative private and public organizations such as Rutgers Health, the New Jersey Innovation Hub, RWJ Barnabas Health, Hackensack Meridian Health, universities from Ireland and Israel, and others. The Helix is coming. Visit helixnj.com to learn more.
Stream your favorites and discover more with the Disney Bundle. Watch the new season of Loki on Disney Plus. On Hulu, fear creeps in with the boogeyman. And touchdown with college football on ESPN Plus. All of these and more streaming now. Get the Disney Bundle with plans starting at $9.99 a month. Plans with ESPN Plus starting at $14.99 a month. Terms apply. See DisneyBundle.com for details.
From NJ.com and the Star Ledger, welcome to the Rutgers Rant, your one-stop podcast for the Scarlet Knights, with your hosts Steve Politti and Rutgers insiders Brian Fonseca and Pat Lanny. Let's start shopping.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Rutgers Rant. Politti here. Lanny, Fonseca, as always. Rutgers 27, Michigan State 24. I've seen a lot of things happen at SHI Stadium over the years. I have not seen something quite like that. Just an incredible comeback, incredible scene afterward. Isaiah Pacheco dancing in the locker room. Pat Hobbs going airborne on the field. It was just a good, much-needed moment for this program, and we're going to talk about it. But before we get started, I'm going to let you guys decide. Do you want to talk about the football game that is very important and matters greatly to the course of this program, or do you want to talk about the fan thing that everybody else is yelling at me about? Which direction? It's like a choose your own adventure book. I don't know if they had those when you were growing up. Fonseca, a big part of my childhood. You can pick which page you want to jump to. Where should we start this thing?
Well, first of all, I want to say congratulations to you on your 25th anniversary at the Star Ledger. Great achievement. Great to work under you. You're an absolute legend in the area. And I thought there was no more appropriate way for you to celebrate the anniversary than to rail on Rutgers fans for not showing up to a football game and get into fights with people about it on Twitter and become the enemy of the state for a weekend. On a weekend when they had one of their greatest football wins in a decade. So congratulations to you. The most Politti thing possible. I didn't think you could one-up yourself, but here we are.
Right. That is good. Yes. And believe me, and my first day at the job, same thing happened. Twitter just got destroyed on AOL. People were using dial-up to yell at me. You know what dial-up was? They used to dial-up. So never mind. It's not important. But yeah, that was something else. All right, let's just do it. Let's just talk about it because it was, I've kind of, I have not really done the whole thing with the fans. Like I have really kind of left the crowd alone. I've not done the photo. I've just whatever. But I got to tell you, this one really, I thought this one was really glaring. And I'm going to just say it up front. This is my take on this. If you left at the start of the fourth quarter, like I can't blame you. Right. I mean, if you sat there for 2 hours in the rain and the team wasn't doing anything, it was 24-6. You're miserable. You're wet. You've seen this game a million times and you're like, hey, well, let's just go home. And you got in your car and, oh my God, I can't believe they won. I totally understand that. It's just the way the stadium looked at the start of the game, and I'm not the only one. Like I'm not saying this in a vacuum. I'm not the only one who noticed it. People around the program noticed it. I think that when you have that kind of moment, like you've got 53,000 seats out. People are in town. People are in town for the game. Like they knew people were here, and only 20,000 people showed up. It was just a bad look. And I get it. It's raining. It's wet. I sit in the press box. I'm warm. All of that stuff. I totally understand. It just was a bad look.
When you said people were taking notice, the beat reporter from Michigan State took the attendance number 53,000, I think what that was announced, and tweeted it out as well. So you weren't alone in criticizing the crowd. I think that in itself, you have to be so skeptical of that number. like you said, we understand the rain, the weather. It was terrible. Kudos to the people that did stick around. They're obviously the true diehard fans that are always going to stick with this program. But at the start, there was nowhere close to 50,000 people in the stadium. That's just the bottom line.
20,000, maybe.
The Michigan State beat writers, I'm not sure if they have a gripe at all, but I remember last year when we were in East Lansing, I tweeted a photo of the crowd before the game at kickoff, and that also got some traction too. Some national guys caught wind of it, so maybe they're trying to get some revenge on us. But on a serious note, I'm with you guys. I understand the rain. The forecast was ugly all week. I empathize with fans who have children. I empathize with reasons for not going to a game. I empathize with a fan base that has suffered for a decade of horrendous football and is not quite ready to make a commitment to go to every game. But this is the biggest game they've had in that decade. This was an opportunity to witness the football program reemerging again. It's homecoming, like you said, a lot of people in town. I personally did not grow up a huge fan of any of the local teams. I was not a big football, baseball, basketball guy. My thing was soccer, as you guys know, and you guys like to joke about, but the team I support is 3,000 miles away, and I have never been to a home game because I can't. It's not feasible. I'd like to think that if I lived in New Jersey, or I should say, if the team I support was in New Jersey and I had the means to go and they had a humongous game, I'd go to the game in rain, in sleet, in snow, in hot weather, in freezing temperatures. I'd be there because I'd want to be there. So I think this just shows that Rutgers does not have that many dedicated diehard fans. The fan base is not that big, or the fan base was big like this at one point, and they've just chipped away, and they're just not. This is not a moment that's big enough yet to get people to show up. Maybe that'll be Ohio State. Maybe that'll be next year when they win a bowl game. Maybe it'll be another point. But it seems pretty clear that Greg Schiano said his team is not there yet to upset the big boys. It seems like the fan base is not there yet to show up in what I thought was a pretty big moment. And I agree. I thought it was pretty disappointing how little people there were at the beginning of the game.
And in the barren hellscape that was my Twitter mentions, I was okay if you said to me, like, look, I got kids, I got family, I got like someone else do it. It's just miserable out, or just you're a jerk. Shut the hell up. That was totally okay. It was the people who came back at me with the, well, maybe if they won a big game one of these years. It's like, guys, they're 4-2. They lost at Michigan and at Wisconsin. It's like, one of those teams is going to play for the national championship. The other one might have played for the Big Ten championship, lost their starting quarterback. So that's not going to happen. Still, 2 good losses, 4-2. You're playing a team, Michigan State. You hadn't, 8 of the last 9 meetings they've beaten you. It's a chance to, finally put them back in their place. A chance to get closer to a bowl game. I just thought the moment called for a home field advantage that this team didn't have. And I don't want to say, look, there's a million reasons why this team didn't play well early. But if someone said to me, we were flat at the start of the game, I'm not blaming you folks, but let's put all the things that happen there early in the game together, and you wonder, well, here's why you're down 18 points. It's a factor.
I don't think they read what we write. I don't know how much attention they pay. But the thing is, we talked about this being a must-win game for them all week. I'm sure that behind closed doors, they talked about that being a must-win. You felt the gravity of the game to run out of the tunnel and see so many empty bleachers. I don't care. I mean, these are kids, right? Like, it's got to be disheartening. I totally agree with you that. And look, Johnny Langan and the guys had a great answer to it after the game.
It was great. They were really great about it. Yep.
They were really good about it. They said they had to earn respect, but I still have to think that deep down, they got to think, what else do we have to do and again, they can't control the weather. But they have to think, what else do we have to do to get some butts in the seats? And I think they must hope that if they beat Indiana on Saturday, they get a bye week. They host a top 10 Ohio State team, assuming they beat Penn State. You got to think that that's going to be a big crowd, because if it's not, then that's really alarming.
You got something else, Pat, to finish us off on this?
That other Big Ten fan bases, whether it's pouring or not the perfect day, they show up. And think about Penn State's whiteout game. Every single kid had a poncho on. They showed up. 80,000 people stayed for that game, and it's enough with the excuses, right? Like, you want to be considered one of the best. You want to be considered like a Big Ten program. You gotta act like it sometimes.
I do love the response to that argument in my Twitter feed was either, well, there's nothing to do in Nebraska. Okay, fair. And the other one was, well, Penn State's just a cult. I'm like, oh, all right. Let's get some counterpoints to these arguments.
I think Pat hit the nail on the head. People want to say Rutgers belongs in the Big Ten. All they want, they keep saying that. the fans play a part in that too, right? I totally agree, Pat. That's a tremendous point.
And the fans, this is one thing I also thought of. The fans hold this program, rightfully so, hold this program up to a high standard, like constantly when it's not succeeding, when it's not doing well, demand excellence out of it. Well, the two things the fans can do, only two things: give money and show up. I'm just going to put it out there that, if you're not doing either one of those two things, shut up. There's my argument on that.
We say all these things from our ivory towers of the
ivory
press
tower,
box.
Eating my hot dog, drinking my coffee, looking out behind the plexiglass window, go, oh, looks a little damp. Where's everybody? You're right. Happy anniversary, Politi. Okay, let's move on to the game. Have we covered that now? I guess maybe. All right. And it was a great game. And I got to tell you, I did not. And we joked about it, but like I write this stuff as the game's going on. And you should have seen what I had on this, just about unprepared, losing to a team with a backup quarterback, an interim coach, a biggest scandal in college football. I just thought the team hadn't showed up really for the first three quarters. And you're watching it, you're like, man, what a disappointment. And you start to think about the trajectory of where this thing is going. I really thought the arrow was pointing up. You see a game like that and you're like, oh, maybe I'm wrong. I was not wrong. The arrow is pointing up. Just a great response, and not just getting a good break early on, but there were so many plays in that game to me that just showed a team that pounced on the opportunity. Michigan State opened the door an inch, and Rutgers slammed it open and took over from there in really an impressive way.
Everybody really stepped up in the second half, and as cliche as it sounds, and it's what we wrote in the film review, it was a tale of two halves, and it was a different team in the second half than it was, or not even second half, the fourth quarter, than it was in the first three quarters. Rutgers was doing everything wrong. Self-inflicted wounds were just stacking up one after another. The penalties were terrible. 6 penalties for 70 yards in the first half. They cleaned that up, 0 in the second half. In the fourth quarter, Rutgers outgained Michigan State 120 to -20. I mean, that just shows how dialed in these guys were defensively. We got to give a shout out to Desmond Igbinosun, who had his best game of his career, 4 tackles for loss. Guys stepped up that, needed to. Christian Dremel had his best game. Monungai was obviously the hero again. And Gavin Wimsatt really bounced back from those 2 picks to really show you that he could lead this team down the stretch. When he needed to make a play, he made the play. He made that beautiful touchdown pass to Isaiah Washington, and the 2-point conversion. The Dremel was a great throw too. So everything, you go back to the muffed punt by Rashad Rochelle, and that's just the lowest of lows. You thought after everything that went wrong, the targeting call, which we can talk about, I'm sure, all the way up to the muff punt. It's just like everything that could have went wrong. Michigan State comes out on its first drive and goes the distance. It was ugly. But the resolve that Rutgers showed, everyone spoke to that, and the way that they were able to just rally and never give up, and to put it in their own words, to put together a 60-minute chop was, to me, salvaged the season. Because you were talking about trajectory. I mean, they lose this game to Michigan State, chances of a bowl, they go way down. Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk about what we wrote in before the comeback. I'll save what I was writing for that.
Brian, what impressed you the most?
The Michigan State coach referred to it as an avalanche. As soon as Aaron Young recovers that punt in the end zone, it felt like the entire Michigan State operation was shaky. I mean, they started going a little wobbly. Rutgers forces a big stop on defense. Gavin Wimsatt gets the ball back, down 11 points with 13 minutes to go. And I'm sitting there, I'm wondering what we asked before Wisconsin. Can he lead this drive? Can he, in a big moment, lead Rutgers down the field? And he did. He did, combine obviously with Kyle Monungai, who is one of the best running backs in the Big Ten. I mean, he's proven it throughout the season, but really yesterday, that fourth quarter was unbelievable. I'm sitting in the stands and fans are screaming, come on, Wimsatt, come on, Wimsatt. On the third down touchdown pass, I believe it was Aaron Young, was wide open, just absolutely wide open. And the fans are screaming, throw it. And then he throws it to Washington, and they're freaking out. And then Washington makes an unbelievable catch, just an unbelievable catch for the touchdown. And then I end up watching the highlights back, and I hear Matt Millen on the broadcast saying, he's wide open. So I thought I was having a little bit of deja vu there. But yeah, and then obviously the kickoff recovery was brilliant strategy from Shiano, great work from Thomas Omonkwa. And again, just like it felt like Rutgers could do no wrong in that stretch. They turned an 18-point deficit around in something like 5 minutes or however short it was. Just incredible. I've watched a lot of Rutgers football. I watched a lot of bad Rutgers football. I watched some good Rutgers football. I've never seen anything like that. And I think it was really a teetering moment in the season where, like to Pat's point, like if they lose this game, things get ugly. I think this could, spring a win in Indiana. And I'm not saying they're going to beat Ohio State. I've kind of cooled down on that take, but I'm saying this is the kind of win, the kind of moment that injects some real juice into a season that was already off to a good start.
Yeah. And after all that, after they came back, for me, just the impressive part was just to churn off the final 7 minutes and 3 timeouts. And that's what a Big Ten team looks like. In 9 straight runs, Kyle Monangai up the gut behind a really, really good offensive, looked like a great offensive line in that fourth quarter. And then to get to the point where you still have about 2 minutes left for 3 kneel downs for your coaching staff on the sidelines to look at that, to get the time right, to make no mistakes and just get the hell out of there. That is just, and Greg Schiano said it was like a Ray Rice kind of drive. And I think the moment that I kind of recognized that Rutgers the first time around was going to be different. I think they're playing at North Carolina, and it was a Ray Rice day where they did the same thing where you're like, all right, well, this is kind of a toss-up game. Carolina might have more talent. It's pretty close. You don't know which way this is going to go. And then you just see the way, all right, well, yeah, Rutgers was the more physical, dominating team. They ran the ball, got the first downs, got the hell out of there with the win. It's the same thing here. That kind of, when he said that, it really resonated with me because that's exactly what I was thinking during that drive. And leave no doubt, but Kyle Monangai, we've talked about, who's the most talented running back? Kyle Monangai. The answer, the proof is on the field. He's the best running back on this team. He's pretty much the only running back they're using on the team. Understandable completely. He's the dude. And that fourth quarter was really just something impressive. And you mentioned it again. I love Wimsatt's throw, and he missed a couple. He also missed Sam Brown wide open on another play earlier on. But it's the resilience that I like with him too. Like he's clearly not getting flustered like a young quarterback would by these mistakes. He's just not. And that to me is a really good sign for this team going forward. All right, sets up a bowl game. What are our thoughts now on this? Have you guys done some research? It seems like 6-6. We're going to the Bronx. I mean, what's the projection here? If your educated guess on what our hopes are.
6-6 sounds like the Bronx. Yeah, that's the best way to put it. Pinstripe Bowl. If they beat Indiana, they'll have that 6th win. It seems like that's the lowest, not the lowest, but maybe the second lowest Big Ten bowl. I think the Quick Lane Bowl would be the lowest Big Ten caliber bowl. But the projections all season long have included Rutgers in the Las Vegas Bowl, which is this week. The ESPN projections has Rutgers versus USC in the Las Vegas Bowl.
Can you imagine? Really? USC loses one game and that's it? The rails are off? We're going to Vegas?
But it's like the third, I want to say it's the third best team in the Pac-12, which if you look at the standings right now, that's where USC is, and then it's a mid-tier bowl game for the Big Ten. So that would be a matchup for the ages. And if it wasn't USC, the last couple of weeks it's been Oregon State playing Rutgers in the Las Vegas Bowl. So I've seen the Las Vegas Bowl, the Pinstripe Bowl, and the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, which is in Phoenix. That would be another Pac-12 matchup. But the Pinstripe Bowl seems to be like the most common destination, and it's against an ACC team most likely. A lot of the projections have North Carolina State, who's got a critical 3-game stretch coming up.
All right, let's pretend, Brian, is there some, if they can beat Indiana, we should probably not just chalk it up as a win yet. If they beat Indiana, they've got 4 games left after that. 2 of them you would think would be competitive. Iowa, Maryland. Maryland just lost badly. Iowa doesn't score more than 2 touchdowns in a game, so you theoretically, I get it. They win all those games, but theoretically, you could beat them with 17 points. If they win one or both of those games, what else is on the table? I guess there's Music City Bowl. Anything else?
The Rose Bowl, baby.
Rose Bowl. I love it, man.
I think we should.
Don't get me excited like that.
I won't. I think we should temper expectations. And I think we were counting our chickens before they hatched against Michigan State. And then we were suddenly wondering in the press box if they were going to make a bowl game at all. So I think personally, the Las Vegas Bowl is the best case scenario. It's before Christmas. It's to a great city I've never been to. And I get to
Never been to Vegas. Oh boy, we'd do that well.
Oh, the expense report would go crazy. But I've been to Atlantic City, which is close enough, I guess. I've never been to Vegas. I would prefer to go there because of the timing. I would really not like to go to Detroit on Christmas morning, the day after Christmas morning. That just sounds like absolute depression. And I guess if we have to cover a game the day after Christmas, Phoenix, I've never been. I wouldn't mind. But if we're going to cover that time range, give me the Pinstripe Bowl. I'll take a PATH train up to the Bronx. Call it a day. I'll deal with the open air press box that I hate very much.
And then what a cruel thing. We'd have to sit in the elements. How about that? Dealing it right back. There'd be a tweeting of photos of Politi sitting there wrapped in 17 layers with the gloves on, trying to type his 5 observations. That's karma right there. Perfect.
I think you made the entire Rutgers fan base root for the Pinstripe Bowl now.
All of a sudden, fans are like, Bronx, 13 degrees. Do it.
I love Yankee Stadium in December. Just a lovely chill in the air. Iowa demolished Wisconsin. Just demolished them.
15-6. Can you get demolished 15-6? Okay.
I mean, Iowa could go out every game, not take a single offensive series, punt every time they get the ball back, and they would beat every team they play. I'm convinced. They're unbelievable defensively. And I think that there's something so confounding about how bad they are offensively that opposing teams have never seen anything like this. So they must be so confused they can't figure out what to do. And that's what happens.
It's complementary football, Brian. They don't need to be good offensively.
Well, who does the offense complement? Nobody, obviously. The defensive teams are complementing each other, and the offense is standing in the corner like the awkward stepchild, and it works.
Wait a second. Iowa ran the ball for 170 yards in that game against Wisconsin. That is complementary football.
There you go. Good point. Short games out there in Iowa City. All right. True or false? Let's do it. Diving in right away. Got some good ones for you. See if you agree. All right. True or false? If the Scarlet Knights don't clinch a bowl against Indiana, they won't. Pat, is it do or die? True or false?
True.
Okay.
True. Yeah.
Brian?
I'm tempted to think Maryland is vulnerable because they lost to Illinois, who stinks. I agree with Pat. True. I have a hard time thinking Rutgers could beat any of the other 4 opponents.
I'm going to say false. I think this team was going to find one in the last 4 if it has to, but this just better do it here. All right. True or false? We talked about this a little bit. Greg Shanna deserves loads of credit for his sneaky good clock management at the end of the game. True or false? Pat?
Definitely true. That was really, really impressive.
Okay. Brian?
Mario Cristobal, eat your heart out, buddy. Learn from Greg Schiano. How about that? True.
Wow. True. Greg would like to hear that, I think. True. Definitely true. I think there's something I think he's been in a lot of situations, especially this year, hasn't seen one where the sideline stuff has been a problem. It has not been. So I'll go true as well.
If we're still on Greg coaching decisions, I do want to add, before the Aaron Young punt fumble recovery in the end zone, they had a decision. Michigan State had punted with an illegal formation. So Greg Schiano had a decision of whether to accept the penalty and make them re-kick or just accept the ball at the Rutgers 35-yard line, which is pretty good field position. Greg we didn't ask him about this, but I imagine the combination of the elements, the fact that Michigan State was backed up, the fact that he might have sensed some shakiness from Michigan State, whatever it was, he made them re-kick the kick. Obviously, Michael O'Shaughnessy let the ball slip through his hands. Aaron Young recovered the ball, and the rest was history. So I think that was an underrated coaching decision there.
Yes.
Look, did he think they would end up recovering the ball in the end zone? I'm not sure, but as he mentions a lot, when you make the bad decision, you get killed. When you make the right decision, I think you deserve praise. I think that was a huge moment in the game that Greg Schiano deserves credit for.
Great point. Absolutely. I think he just thinks he's going to block every kick. So he wants them to kick it again, especially back up to the end zone. So yeah, that was good stuff. Back up. And as you pointed out, Brian, not their starting long snapper who's in the portal.
I won't take credit for that. And apparently they have a 2-puncher system too. I was listening to their beat writers talk about it. Very complicated things in Michigan State. But the important thing is that Rutgers finally got that big special teams play, 2 of them that we've been talking about all year that they haven't gotten. And obviously it ended up helping them pull a comeback. So Greg Schiano ball is back.
True or false? Rutgers has identified its offensive line, and it's a pretty good one. Have we finally ended the rotations here, Pat? True or false?
It's true. Based off the review of the film.
True.
Yeah, only one substitute came in for more than 8 plays, and that was it. And it's obviously a very different offensive line that played against Michigan State than what started the season. So it's true. I think it's true.
You agree, Brian?
I do. The only change would be if Tyler Needham comes back, which is not impossible. Greg Schiano hasn't ruled him out for the year. There is a chance he comes back before the end of the year, though I'm not sure how healthy he would be. And Reggie Sutton what a great story.
That it is.
I asked him, like, everyone looks at him as this inspirational story. He came back and he played. He just played 65 snaps and started a Big Ten game. Like, and that's what he said. Like, I'm glad to be an inspiration, but I'm here to contribute.
Yeah.
And look, he was shaky at times. He gave up a sack, but he played 65 snaps and mostly held his own and was good in that fourth quarter. So kudos to Reggie Sutton. The story keeps getting better and better, and he might be one of the reasons Rutgers has solved this offensive line puzzle.
He is done with the slapping on the back for showing up, and I love it. Good for him. All right. True or false? And this is a reader submitted true or false, which I like. If Rutgers wins at Indiana, Schiano signs a contract extension before the Ohio State game during the bye week. Extended. Pat, you buying that one? True or false?
It's an 8-year deal, right? I just don't see the urgency. I think he deserves it. But to answer the question, I'm going to say false just on the timing. I think maybe they'll wait to the end of the season.
Brian?
If you're going to do it in season, it's got to be in this spot, which I predicted, by the way. I have text logs from between us three. I predicted this. If they're 6-2 before Ohio State, maybe it'll happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying if it does happen, credit to me for reporting it first 2 months ago.
To us on a text chain that no one else saw. Good. Yeah, absolutely.
Correct. So to answer the question, I think true. I think the perfect storm is happening. You really have nothing to lose if they lose the last 4 games of the season. Sure, the momentum is hurt, but no one is going to expect you to win any of those games. You're probably not going to be favored in any of those games. Quick side note, Rutgers did not cover the spread for the first time all season on Saturday. So condolences to all the degenerates who have been riding Rutgers. But I think it's a good spot to do it. I wouldn't be surprised if it happens. And given the way these coaching things start to work, you talked to him before the season about this, 4 years left on the deal, the clock's starting to tick. I think it would be a very strong public affirmation of the athletic department saying, we're behind Greg Schiano. He's the right guy. We're heading in the right direction. Give him another, 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I think it's done. I think it'll be done, essentially, for all intents and purposes. Whether or not they announce it or whether or not it's signed, if that's going to happen when Greg Schiano thinks it's going to help recruiting the most. That's what the contract is for. At that point, that's what the thinking everything he does kind of revolves around that thought process. So is it better now before you play Ohio State, or is it better in early December before signing day? So I'm going to say false, because my feeling is to pop that out there, in the headlines when you're nailing down a recruiting class might be better. But I mean, if they go 6-2, there's going to be something.
The rebuttal is if they lose their last 4 games, the headline is Greg Schiano renews his contract after 4-game slide to end the season.
Is that the headline, or is the headline Greg Schiano gets Rutgers back to 6-6 bowl level? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I guess it'll look different. The season will look different with 4 straight losses, but we would have all, certainly the order of them, we would all sign for 6-6. So I don't know.
I don't write the headlines.
You don't write the headlines.
I don't write most of the headlines.
Nonsense.
I don't work for the Post. I don't have an editor that writes all my headlines. I don't write most of the headlines. That was just me playing devil's advocate.
True or false? This weekend will end all of the Rutgers doesn't belong in the Big Ten narratives. Beat Michigan State, field hockey with a couple of Big Ten wins. Both soccer teams beat Big Ten programs. We're rolling down there in Piscataway. It's a big weekend. Is that going to stop the Athletic from parachuting in the next time? No, Vladdy's already shaking his head.
It's just never going to go away. I think there's just always going to be some idiot on Twitter shouting about Rutgers. And
wait, is this another dig at me, Pat? Am I the idiot on Twitter here? No, I'm not.
No, because this narrative. Actually, yeah, you were the one who contributed to the Athletic article. So yes, it is you.
I wasn't included because I was too positive. They left me on the cutting room floor.
It's ingrained in the Big Ten society. This East Coast elite school does not belong in the Big Ten. It doesn't fit the Big Ten. I just think it is what it is. Like,
I wonder if adding the West
Rutgers
Coast
fans know that this weekend obviously proves it. Field hockey is going to be contending for a national title. I mean, come on. It is it is enough. It is enough. But
Brian, what do you think?
So one weekend of positive results ends the narrative.
I don't know. It's a true or false question.
One weekend of positive results negates.
It should. Well, maybe not in the narrative, but it proved the narrative to be wrong.
I would say false. And I think there has to be a little bit more proof of concept. I think Rutgers is probably going to have to upset someone good in football. Right. I think basketball is probably going to have to win maybe a Big Ten title. I think some more, maybe field hockey wins a regular season tournament and NCAA tournament triple. Maybe that'll change things. I don't think so. I'll say false. Though, good weekend. No one's debating that.
All right. Yeah, probably false. It's never going to end. Although I wonder, the West Coast teams, you have like, you can say, oh, Oregon doesn't belong in the Big Ten for whatever reason we come up with. I mean, there'll be something. They're good at football.
They're good at football. So is USC. They've won, they've played for national championships. Rutgers hasn't. No offense. Just saying.
Oregon's a track school. Everyone knows that.
Of course. True or false? Stop worrying. Dylan Harper will commit to Rutgers eventually. Brian, you were around him the entire weekend. I don't know that stop worrying. You can go ahead and worry, but are you still on team Dylan to Piscataway?
So to be clear, I wasn't around him. I wasn't sitting next to him. I wasn't at the tailgates. I was creepily standing within a few hundred feet of the tailgates and causing some discomfort from some people within the program.
Stalking him
I followed along and watched from afar and kind of just looked at the way Dylan Harper was interacting with fans, a lot of them asking for autographs and photos, and almost all of them begging him, please come to Piscataway and fulfill the prophecy and join the class. He seemed to be having a good time with it. He seemed to be having a really good time with Ace Bailey. Those guys look like very close friends, always laughing and joking around. And they're on the field before the game, and We Will Rock You was playing, and Dylan Harper is hitting the beat of the song to Ace Bailey's shoulder, and they're taking fun selfie videos, and they're doing TikToks and all this stuff. I think, yes, Dylan Harper will end up at Rutgers. I don't know if it's because of what I saw on the official visit weekend, but I think what I saw kind of reinforces the idea of he feels comfortable at Rutgers. He's very close to Ace Bailey, and I don't know when it'll happen. I do think if I had to bet on it, Dylan Harper ends up at Rutgers. True.
Pat?
I'm twiddling my fingers here with the conspiracy theory.
Here we come.
What if this was all preconceived, that Ace Bailey was going to commit early first and then be the key cog in Dylan Harper's recruitment? And secretly, they've always known that they were going to play together, but they just wanted to really build the hype about this Rutgers brand. And that, yes, Dylan Harper is going to commit to Rutgers. So, yes, true.
If they pulled it off, they certainly also have not included
expertise.
Yeah. All right. Good job, truly, Johannesburg. Good work. Yeah, I think it's true. He will commit eventually. All right. And finally, this one's sort of targeted to one of the three of us, and neither one of you. True or false? It's always a good thing to have a Twitter beef with a WFAN producer who has 4 times your followers on X. True or false? Is that a good idea, Pat? Would you think that would be a good thing to spend your Sunday morning doing?
Yes, because all publicity is good publicity.
Really? True. Okay. True. Brian?
True only if you get to go on the show this week and defend your honor in front of their live radio audience.
The answer is false, clearly. So this is set the scene. This is what happened to me on Sunday morning. I get like 5 hours off this weekend because I covered the Jets yesterday too. I'm at my daughter's soccer game in Union City. Exciting game. Daughter has a goal. It's 1-1. I'm not going to see her play next weekend because I'll be in Indiana. And my wife looks over me, and my head is down in the phone, and I'm just like angrily pecking out something. And she goes, honey, what are you doing? And I look, I'm having a Twitter beef with Al Dukes, honey. Okay. All right. And she's like, well, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? And then, so that was good. And needless to say, Al's got more followers, and I kind of lost that beef on the Twitter. Bad idea. This is the problem. Like, I don't like Al, you want to yell because he was at the game, apparently, Al Dukes. Like, he's a celebrity fan. There's I'll rank them. Isaiah Pacheco, Carly Lloyd, 53 other people I didn't know. And then there's Al Dukes, who was out in the rain. Right?
Kamoko Toure
was there. Yeah.
Kamoko Toure was there. I was there. Obviously, I know you're trying to make me stay humble, but I was there. Don't you forget that.
Dylan Harper was there.
Dylan Harper.
was there.
Yeah.
Ace Bailey.
My problem with Al Dukes, and I said to him, like, you're yelling at me for having an opinion. You're the producer of a sports talk radio show in New York that will debate. Listen, like literally any topic. You'll turn it on. Oh, the Jets won a big game. They'll be talking about deodorant scents. I mean, you're telling me I can't have a take. That's dopey, Al. So there you go.
I think this was a missed opportunity from Al. Obviously, ESPN has established itself as the radio station for the fans. With Don LaGreca, his head almost exploding with what Evan Neal said. WFAN could take the reverse angle and say that fans don't deserve the respect when they don't show up to football games. I just think, this was a take quick that he could have easily taken to Boomer and Gio, and it's a missed opportunity. Maybe he's not that great of a producer after all.
Wow. Ooh, hot take. Send that to Jerry Recco. Maybe we can get that clip.
Someone's about to have a bad Twitter beef.
Twitter beef. I'm out, Al. I'm tapping out. You won this round. Experience the Heldrich Hotel, a luxury hotel that's perfect for both the business and leisure traveler. Ideally located within minutes of Rutgers University, the Heldrich is convenient to all the action and activities at SHI Stadium, Jersey Mike's Arena, and the Rutgers University campus. The moment you walk through the doors of the Heldrich Hotel and Conference Center, you know you're someplace different. A place with an independent spirit and a boutique vibe. A place where you can immerse yourself in your meeting or event as easily as you can the local culture. Located in the heart of the city, the Heldrich lets you experience all that New Brunswick has to offer. Whether you're coming to New Brunswick for a fun weekend with friends, in town for a Scarlet Knights game, or attending a business meeting, book your accommodations today at theheldrich.com. All right. We got a lot of them. Thanks, everyone, for subscribing. NJ.com, Rutgers Insider, to go on there and get our text updates during the games and during the week. So we've got a lot of questions about what this win means, obviously. This is a question from Joe in Gloucester City. The optimist in me says Rutgers beats Indiana to become bowl eligible. The pessimist in me wonders if that will be enough in the end if the season ends with 4 straight losses, possibly some that are lopsided. Is there a scenario that we don't get a bowl invitation at 6-6? Fellas? I don't think so.
Unlikely. I think it would be unlikely given how many bowls there are and teams that will be 6-6. I don't want to say it's impossible, but this is going to be a question that we'll have to answer this week. We just need to do a little bit more research from the Big Ten and things like that to know that for sure. But I think there's 40 something bowls, and it would be pretty impossible for a 500 team not to be included.
Someone's going to take Rutgers.
Yeah. The usual issue is the reverse, where there are not enough 6-6 teams and they start grabbing 5 and 7 teams, right? So I think the reverse is even true. Like Rutgers could feel good that even if they lose the next 5 games, there's a very minute chance of sneaking into a bowl game that way. So no, I think the classic Rutgers fan of finding the absolute most pessimistic angle possible, this one they could probably take a chill pill and relax a bit.
All right, question from Twitter from NJDGIO17. Where does this rank as your most exciting Rutgers football win, aside from the 06-07 seasons? It's a good question. I think from where it was, it's got to be in the most improbable. I mean, we've seen some exciting wins over the years. You know, there've been obviously some good ones. Not lately. I think under Greg Schiano 2.0, it's certainly the most significant one so far. I would say that the Michigan win, where Kamoko Toure, celebrity fan, blocked the field goal at the end, was more exciting than this one. I'm trying to think, like, exciting wise. What do you guys? Anything comes up that's more fun?
This game gets swept under the carpet because it just was in this lost season, and the context of the game maybe didn't lend itself to excitement. But I remember the season opener last year at Boston College and just thinking, how the bleep did they win this game? It was very similar to this one, where like they had to really rally. It was only down a touchdown, I think, but I still don't put the Boston College game ahead of this Michigan State one, but that's the only one that comes to mind that was even remotely close in terms of excitement. Obviously, you mentioned the Michigan game. That was probably, but that's not Schiano. So, I'm going to say this is up there.
In my time covering Rutgers football, the biggest comeback I can remember off the top of my head is a 21-point comeback against New Mexico. That really wasn't that suspenseful in the Ash era. But from what I have read and kind of understand about, like there's some, like the Vanderbilt game is the one that kept getting brought up the last time Rutgers came back from 18 points down in the fourth quarter. They came back from, I think, 24 down overall in 04. I didn't watch that game. I was 8 years old. I don't remember it, even if I did. The Timmy Brown game-winning touchdown against UConn.
Connecticut. Yeah, that's a good one. Yep.
I hear Chris Carlin's voice in my head every time I think of Timmy Brown running down the middle of the field. Those are the two that come to mind. You've been sorry to make another joke completely, but you've been here a lot longer than I have. What do you think?
There's a couple. I'm trying to think of recent ones. There's a wild win in Indiana when Kyle Flo was under fire with Deontay Carew's big game, like high scoring games when you got a little back and forth. We haven't had a lot of those lately, obviously. That one springs to mind. I'm sure I'm missing a bunch. Oh, I mean, well, that's again, it's from those years, but people mentioned that the amount of points they poured on against Pittsburgh one year. Yeah,
there was that huge Maryland comeback as well, right?
Yes, that's a good one. Shootout in Maryland. That's good. Yeah, so there have been a few. I mean, obviously we have to be short-sighted with stuff like this, but there have been a few.
Some people mentioned the Virginia Tech comeback that we referenced when they played Virginia Tech. That feels a whole other tier of its own. Like it's not quite there.
Yeah, agreed. Totally agreed. That is one of the, as you wrote very eloquently, one of the more special wins in program history. So, all right, good question though. Some more questions. Why was there no review on the hit on Dremel? Everyone wants to know this. I don't know that we asked the question, Brian, but you did talk to the refs. It didn't seem like they were happy to see you after the game. Is that you talked to the head ref? How did that conversation go?
Larry Smith was wonderful, actually. He was smiling when he saw me, shook my hand, seemed like he was in a good mood. So I would say he was lovely to be around. So the way the process works is that you have to bring up specific plays you want to ask about, and then it has to get approved through a process that I'm not going to bore you all through. I didn't see the Dremel non-call, but I don't think I could even ask, why they didn't call it. I just don't think. I know a lot of people were worried about the defensive pass interferences as well and some holdings that weren't called. I can't just ask about plays that weren't called. We were able to ask specifically about the Tyrone Powell targeting call, which was an awesome hit from him just emerging in the middle of that line and demolishing Nate Carter. The refs on the field did not see it. They did not see targeting. They did not. Larry Smith said they didn't see it. I'm assuming he means targeting because they obviously watched the play. But it was initiated a booth review. They saw in the booth clear signs of targeting, textbook signs of targeting, I believe was the quote. And just to clarify, I followed up. The replay booth official was the one that clarified this for me. And I followed up with him. It sounds like it was a clear-cut decision, the way you're describing it. And he said, yes, it was. So there was no doubt from the officials up in the booth that Tyrone Powell committed targeting. I think everyone in the stands and that's watched the game on TV disagrees. The tweet I put out of the video went viral with the guy from Last Chance U getting mad about it, asking where the game he loves went, and all these like football old heads getting mad about it. To answer the question about Dremel, I don't know. Looking at it back, I didn't think it was targeting, but I could see if Rutgers fans see Tyrone Powell getting hit with a targeting that the Dremel play deserved one too. These are very subjective plays. I'm not sure. Neither
one's targeting. I mean, targeting to me is you're flying from 15 yards away, helmet first into a quarterback who's I don't know. Just like what is the spirit of that rule? I guess is my question, Pat.
The spirit of the rule is to protect players that are defenseless from getting absolutely demolished and getting hit in the head as well.
Yeah.
Both plays, they did get hit in the head. But it's just been tweaked so much, and so it's been inconsistently called for the last 2-3 years that like no one has a good definition of what targeting is at this point. All the pundits say it. It's just really a really, really subjective call, and they have video to back it up, and it still seems so inconsistent. It's certainly something that the rules committee is going to have to really get their hands around going forward.
The thing that bothered, I think, Shiano and fans is this comes a week after the Wimset targeting call and reversal, which both were obviously booth reviews, I believe, because the booth called them up in Wisconsin as well. I think people are just confused.
Yeah, and I think it also, fans were angry because it just seemed like it was the officiating and the first half of the game, especially just shit. I mean, some things that happened were just shaky. Some of the pass interference calls that were just hand-to-hand combat, both on the receiver and defensive back were called against Rutgers. I mean, there's a couple of things that went, a couple of spots you're like, well, that's not where the ball was. I mean, we could all see that wasn't where the ball was. I think that was maybe why people were fired up about that call as well. Good question. All right. Here's one that we've gotten this a lot, so I'm going to address it from Sue in Somerset. Wants to know, I know that most college quarterbacks look to the sideline when lined up, checking the play call, waiting to call the snap. Is it me or does Gavin Wimsatt look over an inordinate number of times? How can he have confidence to call himself if he had to continually question the play at hand? All right, let's see if we can address it. You're absolutely right. He does get to the line, and it is I mean, this is modern college football, but it happens a lot of Rutgers. Do you guys get the sense it's A, more here, and B, that it might be impacting him?
Such a great question that really I haven't paid all that much attention to in the grand scheme of things, but I do think it is the system that Rutgers runs. When you see the three guys in the three different jerseys, they're all sending the signal in. I think that he is still learning, and I think that's a part of what you have to understand here is that like they want to make sure that they get the play in right, and that's going to take a little bit of time. I don't think it's an issue. And I don't think that Rutgers does it more than any other school.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so we've had this question comes up a bunch too. Should Shiano hire a special teams coordinator outside of Amakwa's awesome play and the MSU punters blunder? Our special teams has been awful this season, swapping place kickers, Rochelle's performance. Is there something in the coaching situation that they should hire someone to do this full time? I'm guessing that Greg Schiano kind of leads that discussion, but they must have other coaches who are also working at it. What's your take on the coaching of special teams?
Not grad assistants, but they have like lower level assistants that kind of man it. Greg Schiano's the special teams coordinator, right? Like he pays a decent amount of attention to that side of the ball. I don't think they've been that awful. Jay Patel's been solid, and I get the 2-kicker system, but I mean, Jude McAdamney was a good call there. It was a 53-yarder. I believe it was against the wind, and his leg was unbelievable. He shot that. He could have hit that field goal from 70 yards away. It was just wide left. The Rashad Rochelle thing is the issue. I'm not sure if their special teams coordinator can teach Rochelle how to field a punt. I just think the issue is that he shouldn't be put out there. I think they have to put Christian Dremel out there. I understand not wanting to risk him and hurt him because he's one of the few wide receivers they depend on. But if you're going to fair catch every punt anyway, what is the harm in putting him out there? And the way he did in the fourth quarter, fair caught 2 punts without any issue. I think that's the one major issue. Yes, they haven't had any big returns. They haven't had any big plays before Saturday, but I don't think they've been bad. And if you put a special teams coordinator on the payroll, that's one less position coach you could have that could go out and recruit. They tried it with Adam Shearer, I believe, in Shiano's first year, right? Adam Shearer, the special teams coordinator, was here. The point is, special teams is not a position that I think you need a specific position coach to do, especially when you have Greg Schiano, who was a good special teams coach himself and pays a lot of attention to it. I just think you got to get, for everyone's sake, especially Rashad Rochelle, you got to get him off the field and you got to put someone else out there because I at this point, I feel bad for the kid that he must feel awful after that muff punt that if Rutgers doesn't complete the comeback, that's a pretty big point in the game.
Yeah. You're just putting him in a bad position. I mean, coaching is putting players in a position to succeed. I mean, we've just seen that for weeks. Every time the punt's in the air, you're like, is this kid going to catch the ball? And it's just, I think they figured it out, and they have to change Christian Dremel's number to do it. It was a big to do in the game. And let's talk about Dremel. It's a good question. Kind of segues into it. Over under on Christian Dremel being a New England Patriot someday. Love this kid. I mean, he's just been great. He's just it's fine. I think. Greg Schiano delivers some great quotes. I don't know if he slides this one in before, but he described him. He looks like the barista at Starbucks, and he does because he's got the arms are tatted up. He's a smaller, not small, but he's not obviously what you think of when you think of a Division I college receiver. What do you think, Pat? You going to see him catching passes when Bill Belichick's 78 and.
Well, the Patriots definitely need some receivers. There you go. Dremel is cut from the mold of Wes Welker and Danny Amendola, certainly like these great slot receivers. So Julian Edelman, of course. Dremel's story is so good because he was a walk-on. He's undersized, but people have always doubted him. Even coming into this year, I'm guilty of this myself. I thought Rashad Rochelle was going to be the slot receiver. He came in, had a great spring ball, great training camp. I was like, all right, they got a really speedy, shifty guy to play the slot. Christian Dremel came in with one career catch, and he's looked like one of the biggest. He is one of the biggest contributors of this offense. Great story. Schiano loves him. Talks about the hard work, playing through pain, the epitome of the chop, things like that. You can just get the sense that he's a true program guy, and it's great to see his hard work paying off.
All right, a couple more on the offense. Why do you think they don't use running backs more in the passing game? I get it twice now. I get not only Lanny sitting next to me begging for the screen pass. I'm getting texts now. A fan of the pod. You know who you are out there. Text me. Is there a single screen pass in this offense? It's interesting. You would think that they were, considering the running backs are so talented, you would use them more. Is it that Monunga is not a good pass catcher? What is the reason here? I don't know. I can't quite put my finger on it.
That's not a bad call. He's had a drop or two this season. I think he's more dynamic with the ball in his hands as a runner, and he's invaluable as a pass blocker. He's the best blocking running back in the Big Ten. It's incredible what he's able to do sometimes in that aspect of the game. I think that's probably a weakness in his game. Aaron Young has shown to be a good pass catcher out of the backfield. I'm not sure why he's not on the field more and given more opportunities. He had one against Wisconsin, correct? He had one this season. I'm blanking out a lot today, but he had a catching touchdown earlier in the year. He's shown he can make plays with the ball in his hands in space. I don't know, but Gavin hasn't thrown a lot of balls behind the line of scrimmage to anyone, wide receivers, running backs, etc. So maybe that's just something that either he's not comfortable doing, they're not comfortable trying out. Maybe they don't trust the receivers or the running backs. I'm not sure, but the numbers support our texter here. They really don't throw any screens at all.
I have obviously I've been screaming for the screen for 2 years now. It's one of my go-to bits. It's now it's a bit. Now it's a bit at this point. I just say it because it's like a thing. My theory is that Rutgers' whole philosophy as an offense is to stay ahead of the sticks. And when you throw a screen or throw something behind the line of scrimmage, you're running the risk of a loss. And that just won't suffice in this offense. So I'm going to bring an end to the bit. That's my theory for why they don't throw passes and maybe why they don't throw to the running backs as often as you would hope.
Okay. Interesting take. Good theory. Good theory. We'll take it. All right. One person wanted to know, did Pikeless recruits stick around to see the signature comeback win? I'm surely hope they didn't bail at halftime. Hope this is someone who also didn't bail at halftime. What else can you tell us about the visit? Brian, you had a good story about it. Anything that we didn't cover in about the visit?
So I watched them leave the game, them being Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, Jermichael Davis, I believe, after the first quarter. They started playing the Cotton Eye Joe. Ace Bailey was doing the Cotton Eye Joe in the concourse as they walked out. They went to the Rodkin, and during our trek to the press conference, I believe, Bryce Dortch had a live video on Instagram. They were at the APC shooting hoops. What they did in the time between that, I don't know. I know they could go into the recruiting pavilion if they wanted to, and obviously I couldn't catch them there if they did. If they were in the recruiting pavilion, this is a fun little look into the NCAA archaic system. That is considered luxury seating. You can't give recruits luxury seating or preferential treatment. So there's a beautiful veranda on the pavilion to watch the game, but they couldn't do that because that would be an impermissible benefit. If they're in the pavilion, inside the stadium, they have to close the blinds to the doors and watch the game on TV. They are not allowed to look through the windows. I bring that up to say I couldn't, use my binoculars and look through the window to find them anyway, even if they were there. Believe me, I tried. And I need to get a new job. I sound creepier and creepier the more I talk about this story. But yeah, and then they were not there at the end from what I saw. I mean, unless they were super sneaky, I did not see them. And then they spent some time at our colleague Adam Zagori. I talked to Ace Bailey on his way back home after the visit. They spent some time Saturday night at Supercharged in Edison. It's this go-karting complex next to the Topgolf that I've been to myself personally. I'm a terrible go-karter, but I had a good time. I'm not sure if they went to Topgolf. They went to dinner at the Rutgers Club. They spent time together as every official visitor does. That's kind of what they do. They let the players spend time together at night. And then on Sunday, Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper, because they arrived late on Friday night and couldn't do it Friday, they took their photo shoot together, had a pretty cool photo with Ace Bailey, Dylan Harper, and Brandon Knight that if Dylan Harper comes to Rutgers and they end up doing what people hope they do, that's going to be an iconic photo for a long time. So a long visit. I spoke to someone who was on the visit Sunday night, and they were exhausted. They couldn't tell me anything because they just couldn't bring themselves to talk any more than they had. So a long, extensive visit. I think it all went well. I think those that are committed feel very good about where they're committed to. I think the two, Trey McKinney and Dylan Harper that were there, felt good about the visit and felt some good vibes. I know Ace Bailey said he was vibing with Dylan Harper. I think the vibes were good coming out of the visit. Now we're back on the countdown to Dylan Harper watch and see where it goes.
the best part about this, Pat, like everyone's got a plan B. If you're in journalism, you have to have like something to fall back on if the rug gets pulled out. Mine is the paint counter at Home Depot. That's where I'm going to work someday. I look fun. Can't wait. I'm actually looking forward to it. Fonseca, though, right now, I mean, I would hire him if I thought my wife were having an effect like Brian Fonseca, private eye. You could totally see him opening up an office in like downtown New Brunswick. He's got the chops for it, right? I could give him the hat with the little thing and the sunglasses. I mean, I don't think he's right. I don't think he's international spy level. Like I wouldn't want him trying to, get secrets out of in Moscow. But what do you think? Would you hire this man to look into something?
No question. I would hire him. And for Christmas, I would get him some sort of spy gadget.
Maybe it's my Halloween costume. I'm going to tell you exactly why. First of all, I also have a daydream that I fantasize when I think about quitting this job. It's a stock shelfer or shelf stocker at ShopRite. I don't know why. It seems like a nice, monotonous, simple job. I could put some podcasts, listen to the Rutgers Rant, and do it and have a good time. I daydream about that a lot less these days, but there was a period in my life where every day I thought about being a shelf stalker. Jesus Christ. Why am I a good detective? I was standing near the tailgate tent, maybe, half an hour into it. And I'm trying to be subtle. I'm looking at the BTN tailgate set, trying to act like I'm there for that. I'm looking into the tailgate tent every while. And when I peep over, I see Steve Peichel looking back at me directly in the eyes and shrugging his arms in the way to say, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I pointed to the BTN tailgate set, said, I'm here for the tailgate set. And he wasn't buying it. So I think if I got caught within half an hour by the one man I didn't want to get caught by, Good job. I think the man who was having an affair in this hypothetical scenario with your lovely wife would catch me in an instant.
Tapping on the car window saying, what are you doing? What are you doing here? Yeah, that's good. Funny. All right. Sorry, Pikes. We'll send someone in a better disguise next time. All right. Good questions. We didn't get to a lot of them. We'll cover some of the other points on our other pod later this week. Thanks for sending them in. What else we got? We talked about a little bit, but field hockey wins again. 2 more wins. Big weekend coming up. Soccer, couple of wins. Anything else? What do we got going on?
Field hockey is on the verge of a Big Ten regular season title. They have a game next week against somebody in the Big Ten who I wish I had the schedule in front of me. Steve, do you have the schedule for you?
It's Iowa and Northwestern, right?
No, they have one more game.
Oh, okay. All right.
They have one more game before that big showdown.
Hang on. Field hockey schedule. 14-0, 5-0 in the conference. How many teams have field hockey in the conference? They have Indiana.
Okay.
The 20th, then the 22nd. So they'll be out in India. Hey, no, that's here. I'm sorry. I'm about to say, Pat, we could have gone to that game. Then it's Northwestern here and then it's at Iowa on the 27th. So should beat Indiana to be 15-0, or they're already 15-0. 15-0, and then so then Northwestern and Iowa. Okay.
If they beat Indiana, they set up a chance to host Northwestern. If they win that game, they would confirm a share of the Big Ten title because they would have one game left to play. Northwestern would have one loss. And then if they beat Iowa, if they somehow finish the regular season undefeated, which would be, I would say, one of the greatest achievements in Rutgers athletics history, they would be Big Ten regular season undisputed champions. A defining couple weeks here for the Rutgers field hockey program. I think if you beat Indiana, really you're playing with house money. You beat one of the last 2 teams. You're winning a Big Ten regular season title. That's a major accomplishment in the best conference in the country, certainly in field hockey. And I think you got to I don't know where they would put the banner. I know they have little signs on the scoreboard at Bauer, but you got to put the banner somewhere to acknowledge, what would be an epic achievement.
Northwestern has one loss. First game of the season they lost. They're 13-1. Haven't given them a goal since September 22nd. So they're good. They're the goods.
Undefeated in the Big Ten.
Undefeated in the Big Ten. So they must have beaten Iowa. Hang on. Let me get the
They did. They did beat Iowa.
They beat them. Okay.
At Iowa.
Interesting. 12-2. Iowa's 12-2. So they must have played a big national game in there too. So
this is the last team standing undefeated in the country. Only team left.
Iowa's got 2 Big Ten losses. They lost to Ohio State, which Rutgers just beat, and Northwestern, as you mentioned. So, I think there's a pretty good chance they're going to share the title if they can beat Iowa. There you go.
They have to beat Northwestern.
They have to beat Northwestern.
Well, they don't have to beat Northwestern. Course. They should beat Northwestern. If they beat Indiana and Iowa, they lock in a share no matter what. if they beat
They do?
Northwestern. Well, no, because Northwestern
Because Iowa,
undefeated.
Northwestern, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We're doing too much
So-
field hockey math here. The point is they're having a great season.
Exactly. People are like, all right, folks. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we'll have Candace Lanahan to discuss this at some point. Anything else? I think we covered it all, right? Final thoughts?
Just as improbable as it seemed, the Michigan State win. I mean, I'm really glad Brian brought up the accepted penalty that Shiano took on the punch.
I forgot all about that. Yeah, it's a great point.
In the and we never talked about our stories that we were writing, Steve.
Oh yeah, that's right. Someone actually
get
asked
back to that.
Yeah. And just no one wants to know how the sausage is made, but I mean, we spend most of the two of us will always be writing quote unquote at the gun. So we're trying to file a story. The moment the game ends, usually we get within 10, 15 minutes. I write like 1,500 words. Like I do these observations and I try to write some things that have happened. And, like the muff punt's going to be a thing, the penalty, the targeting, that's not going to change by the result of the game. But the top, certainly, I had 500 words written. And again, it's just like, they lost the game the way they lost it. Like I thought they're going to lose, you might lose 37-6. And you're like, what a bummer, man. It was just so it was kind of harsh. Yeah, that's the best way I could put it. There were some, brutal. Yeah, the headline was not kind. Scenario. It get me. I said that. So I said to Pat, I picked up my phone and said, "Get me rewrite," and then you just delete it and you start over, and that's it. I mean, that's kind of the job we do. Start typing again.
Yeah, my headline was Rutgers flushes away bowl hopes an ugly loss to Michigan State.
Yeah, you're making a potty joke in your headline too, so maybe it's good that they came back because
it was bad. It was bad all around. Like the self-inflicted wounds were coming through in my story. Even like I was stabbing myself in the chest with a knife, saying like, "What are you doing, Lanny? What are you doing?" Yeah. So
yeah, we put the jinx on things like there's like this reverse jinx. At some of these games, like I was at the Jets game. My headline was like, if only the Jets had a quarterback like Jalen Hurts. Then he just they did have a quarterback like Jalen. He delivered the win to the Jets. He 3 interceptions, threw one late in the game. Like, oh, get me rewrote on that. Delete. So hey, it's the job.
I've never been more glad not to be writing on deadline. And if you guys will entertain me, we completely skated by the fact that Rutgers players held up Pat Hobbs in the middle of the celebration.
We did.
You just mentioned that in your intro, like it was no big deal. I mean, I'm looking over and I see them hoisting somebody. I'm like, is that Pat Hobbs? Just the biggest smile I've ever seen him have in his life, having a great time.
Couldn't have been happier. Yeah. And good for him. Good for him. I'm happy for him. No, we didn't see. I didn't see it until I saw your video. Yeah. Yeah.
We were too busy rewriting our stories.
Exactly. Forgive me if I missed. I put down Aaron. Someone said, I said, who recovered the fumble? Someone said, Aaron. I thought it was Aaron Lewis. No, okay. Got that wrong. That was Aaron Young. Got yelled at for the non-intentional onside kick on Twitter. I honestly looked up and I'm like, oh, they just recovered that was unintentional onside kick. People screaming, hey, Shiano said it was intentional. He said it because I asked him at the press conference. Sure, sorry, I was wrong on Twitter. Yeah, I mean that was a crazy final. Putting that together. And then the good part though is like once they got the lead, and this is helpful because sometimes those games end right away, and you're like, I mean, I've had some moments deadline wise, like when the Giants won one of those Super Bowls where it's like, I've got nothing. But the game, at least they gave you there was still 10 minutes left in the game on clock time, so you had some time to really start rewriting earlier than some of these games that end just right at the gun, like some of the basketball games where it's just impossible. Like, Ron Harper pulls up for a 40-foot 3-pointer that goes in, and suddenly that's the biggest win. And it goes from just another loss to one of the biggest wins in school history. It's fun. That's the job.
I had that one on deadline. So maybe this is karma reversing to save you from the game. And I guess a bonus true or false. I just thought of this. I know we're dragging on long here at the end, but Greg Schiano says he felt relief at the end. I think the TV cameras clearly showed him very emotional. True or false, Greg Schiano was crying or at the very least tearing up at the end of that game.
True. Yeah, I think a little true. Pat, you agree?
No, I disagree. Disagreed in the moment. It was just the rain. He's a tough guy. Come on.
A man can't cry. Man can't be happy. Is that what you're saying?
I cry all the time.
I got a text. I did get an email. I did get an email about that. About, hey, alpha male shouldn't be crying in public. I did. Honest to God, someone emailed me. Just delete it. What are you people? Come on.
It's amazing. That's the second time this season we've caught a guy crying after a Rutgers football game, and they said it was the rain. It was this Saturday. And then after Mohamed Touré made his debut back from the ACL tear, there's a video of him in the alma mater. It looked like he was just like tearing up badly. Yeah. And I asked him, he's like, no, it was just the rain. It was just the rain.
It'll be me in State College when I'm crying, knowing we have to drive all the way back from that hell-forsaken place. That's gonna be the next time you see tears after a Rutgers game, it's rain or not. On that happy note, let's sign off. Great job, guys. I appreciate everyone listening and putting up with us. We try. Thanks. We'll be back later in the week to make the picks and play Boomer Zoomer. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Rutgers Rant. To participate in the conversation and receive live updates about the Scarlet Knights directly to your phone, sign up at NJ.com/insider.